I wanted to talk today a little bit about how to go from overwhelmed and confused to confident in your motherhood journey. And really, this is just a little piece from my newest book. If you haven't heard already, I just submitted the rough manuscript or the rough draft of the manuscript at the beginning of last week. And it is now with my editing team. And I am so excited to be birthing this book and bringing it out to the world. The official date will be sometime in the fall of 2022, so this year. And I will be sharing a little bit more about my book. It's called Mothering from Within, but I'll be sharing a little bit more about that over the coming months as well. So I find that this concept of overwhelm and confusion is a huge piece of the stress that we feel in motherhood. And this is definitely something that I experienced, especially with my first, who is now 6.5 years old. And I remember literally being at home with him when he was a baby and feeling like I was ping ponging between I've got this and like, what the heck am I doing? And maybe you feel like that too, because I feel like a lot of the mamas that I work with and that are in my free community, they have that same feeling. Some days they're feeling great, and other days they're just totally overwhelmed. They're also confused a lot about what to expect with babies in terms of sleep, in terms of development, but also just what to expect of the motherhood journey. And, what to I guess we have this I really feel like we have this need to do the best thing, to do the right thing, to always be doing something to help our children develop into these independent beings who are doing all of the things that they should be doing, and that somehow has fallen on our shoulders as mothers. So I wanted to talk a little bit, and really I'm going to talk about 6 sort of principles or concepts. And I really like to think of them as sort of building blocks, and maybe even the 6 C's of motherhood, which is what I call it in my book. But I find that these core concepts are ultimately what help you move from this state of overwhelm and confusion to feeling more confident and like you've got this whole thing. Like you've got this, mama, right? And so I'm going to share those with you here in this video as well. Okay, so the first one is courage. So courage is defined as the ability to have the mental or moral strength to venture, persevere, and withstand danger, fear, or difficulty. Courage is finding your voice and saying no. It's being open to learning and growing, to step into the unknown, to make mistakes and keep moving forward. Courage is to listen and be present with your baby, your toddler, or even family members, including the ones that do not agree with your ways. Courage is choosing love, being kind and respectful to your baby, to your family, and most of all to yourself. Courage is accepting your own imperfections, leaning into them while showing yourself compassion and understanding. It takes courage to do motherhood your way, even if that is different than the norm or what others in your life are recommending or advising. Okay? So courage is the first building block, right? Isn't that powerful? All right, on to the second C of motherhood, comfort. Providing comfort through loving intention, gentle touch, and responding to our babies' and children's needs is not creating bad habits or spoiling your baby, as sometimes our society leads us to believe. In fact, it is the opposite. Providing comfort and responding to your baby's needs is often the very thing that your instincts are leading you to, that you do automatically without thinking. It is what helps our babies and children know they are loved, that they can always count on you to support them when they need it, and ultimately what helps them grow into confident, independent, and resilient individuals. So that was number 2, comfort. Number 3, connection. Life in general all boils down to connection and love. Connection is the one thing that our babies and children seek the most, and that doesn't stop once we reach adulthood. Connection is often the antidote to the very things we want to protect our children from: anger, fear, loneliness, and yes, even all those sort of behaviors, and later on, peer pressure. Prioritizing connection is important in our entire lives, but especially when it comes to the youngest, most vulnerable people in our lives, our babies. True connection requires us to tune into the other person, their feelings, their desires, their needs. Same for our babies and kids. By focusing on connection, you will start to attune to their needs, their smiles, like when they're working on that big poop, their cries, and yes, even their tired cues and signs of overwhelm. Focusing on connection will also help you maintain a secure attachment with your baby, which is essentially what we all want. The next C, so we're on number 4 now. The next C is clarity. Gaining clarity is about bringing awareness to whatever is causing you confusion or overwhelm. This could include learning about what is biologically normal or typical for babies in their development and sleep, or perhaps learning about why breastfeeding can feel so hard, or maybe even realizing that there is always a reason for your baby's reflux. Perhaps it is learning about new concepts like sensory processing that finally help to explain your baby's unique temperament. Each new phase of babyhood brings with it a whole host of new questions and worries. Of course it does. It's something new to both you and your baby, and it takes time to figure it all out. Whatever it is, gaining clarity is much less stressful when you're learning from trusted sources rather than that random Google search at 3 o'clock in the morning, when your baby is up for the 10th time. And believe me, I have been there too. And you don't want to go down that rabbit hole of that 3 a.m. Google search, but you probably have already, so you know. Number 4, are we on 4? Let me just see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 5. We're already on number 5. Number 5 is consistency. So consistency is key. And this is something that I honed in way back in my OT days when I was treating children, giving parents home programs. It's always about the consistency. That is the only way that you're actually going to see any progress. This concept is such an important one for growth and development of milestones, but also for getting more sleep, making changes, and building new habits. When we are consistent with something, it becomes familiar and predictable, which is our primitive brain views as safe. This is so important because it allows our babies and children to know what to expect, versus when something new, unpredictable, and always changing, which is often viewed as unsafe or scary. And that triggers our fight or flight alarm system to keep us safe and help us survive. So consistency is key, okay? And this does not mean consistently leaving your baby to cry in an effort to teach them to self-soothe to sleep. Being consistently in a state of distress is actually what leads to chronic stress and has a whole host of other problems later on in life. So by being consistent, I am also meaning responding and supporting your baby and their emotions. And the last one is confidence. We all want more confidence. And there are likely many times throughout your life when you have felt anything but confident, when insecurities, doubts, and fears have crept into your mind, sometimes taking over for a while. Confidence is defined as a feeling of self-assurance arising from one's appreciation of one's abilities and qualities. It is what allows us to hold our heads high and continue doing various things without second guessing ourselves, right? Confidence is essentially trusting in yourself, and this is so important in motherhood. For some, this comes quite easily, but for many of us, it takes time to build this confidence. But guess what? I have found that building confidence takes having the right mindset, aka deciding to trust yourself and your baby. It takes repetition and practice, aka consistency. And it takes to be willing to be perfectly imperfect. So, yes, you're going to make mistakes. We all do. It's part of the human experience. I also know that if you focus on the 5 building blocks, so courage, clarity, connection, comfort, and consistency that I just mentioned, you will be building and strengthening your confidence and ability to trust in yourself and your mom instincts throughout your motherhood journey and beyond. So I hope you enjoyed that little snippet from my book. That is from the introduction of my book. I think it's such an important concept or concepts, plural, to really embody and embrace as a mother, regardless of how old your children are. But that's just a little taste of, sets the stage for my book. So I would love to hear your comments in the comments below this video about what you thought about that. And if you have anything to add, I think this is such an important conversation in motherhood to talk about this overwhelm and the confusion, but then also to talk about how can we start to trust our instincts again? How can we trust ourselves and that we actually do have all of the answers within us? I know it's so hard to trust that initially, but it's true. You do. You know your baby the best, you know your toddler the best, you know your child the best, and you know your family the best, and you know yourself the best. So slow down, tune in, and listen. That's it. Hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys again later this week and have a wonderful day. Bye for now.